Condition was we will eventually use this for some transit use, whether it's for light rail or whatever transit use. That was the condition, and some of these alignments are active. So there's freight rail that uses these corridors, for the most part. And as we all know, we never did use these corridors for transit use, and FDA, for the past 8-9 years have been communicating with us that we either put these to transit use or get rid of them, sell the property. So couple 2.5 years, we conducted a study that was conducted by AECOM that looked at the status quo of these corridors, the conditions, and then they made a recommendation in terms of what to do with all the rail right-of-way that we own, whether to keep them, put them to transit use, sell them, donate them, what have you. And their recommendation was pretty much sell the rail right-of-way. There isn't much of transit use for them. And then also the recommendation was work with the third-party stakeholders, such as the city, Great Parks, and so on maybe transferring the crown piece to be used for the bike trail. So those were the recommendations by by our consultant. And since then, again, following FDA's process, we had to do appraisals and then appraisal review to, again, double check on the appraisals that were done. So we've been conducting these for the past year or so. And Jason, you want to take it from there in terms of when we completed the appraisals, communications with FDA, and where we are, please?
Yeah, excellent. So in 2021,
Oh, I'm sorry. For this committee, you've always seen me with Waleed. Waleed, obviously, is no longer with us. He's gone to bigger things. Jason is our new director, and he's been, of tremendous help for me and for this program, as well as for the MTEF program. So, Jason Rowe.
well, good morning. In 2021, we contracted with AECOM to take the existing conditions and put that into a report that we could synthesize. The primary areas of focus were the current rail operations, operating agreements, physical conditions, our current maintenance needs and ongoing costs associated with maintenance, and then crossing areas, both pedestrian and vehicle crossings. We followed up that with a recommendations report. And as Khalid has already pointed out, they recommended that since we had not used it for a transit purpose and we did not have any ongoing projects for a transit purpose, they did recommend for us to dispose of that property. Next slide, please. So that property disposition process, we have to follow the FTA circular guidance of 5010, which essentially says in order for us to dispose of the property, there's two primary buckets. The first primary bucket would be with the intent to retain the property, and the second bucket would be with the purpose of selling the property. And since we were recommended to dispose of it and sell it, we went ahead and had the property appraisal reports done in 2023, followed by a third-party property appraisal reports that looks at the universal standards of property appraisals to make sure that the appraisal report was true and accurate. We provided both of those reports at FTA in January of 2024. The FTA reviewed that and then followed up in May with a request for a reappraisal for properties that valued more than $1 million. We were seeking their concurrence for properties over $1 million. Once we received their concurrence, then we were free to move to market and try to dispose of those properties. We were able to deliver that reappraisal to the FTA on August the 6th, actually August the 2nd, and they quickly came back and gave us concurrence on August the 6th, saying that they agree with the property appraisals and they concur with the values, and we are now free to move forward. Next slide, please.
Just for curiosity's sake, how much has it cost for appraisals? I'm just interested.
It's actually a really good question. I believe we went through, there's been 3 different contracting efforts, so I don't want to miss.
At least 300?
No, it's less.
No.
I think the total value of the contract is $250, and it's IDIQ, which means it's indefinite deliverable. So we over prepared. I think it's going to come in under that.
Board approved it.
The good news is that those reasonable efforts, we get to deduct that off of the sale of the property back to the FTA. So all those costs, we get to take those off of our books. Yeah. So next steps for our disposal plan, we're going to continue to follow the FTA guidance, as also our local laws and jurisdictions. We're going to follow those as well. We followed up with the FTA regarding the Oasis line transfer to rail to trail project. The feedback that we've received to this point is that it's with their legal department, so we don't really have anything to report back to you at this point. We certainly will continue to follow up with them. We are currently trying to contract with a real estate broker to assist us with the market analysis and sales strategy, best way to move forward with disposing and selling the property. Once we have them on board, I intend to have internal stakeholder conversations with both our maintenance team, our marketing team, because we have some properties that actually have billboards and stuff on them. So we're going to take a look at what we plan to do with our billboard properties, and then we're going to develop a plan and move forward with sale of the properties. Any questions?
Yeah, I recall at one point getting a letter here about City of Blue Ash being interested in one of these parcels. Have we been engaged with other public stakeholders or like public entities about the land
We've received a few interested parties that while we were going through the FTA process, we were really non-committal because we wanted to make sure that we followed their guidance. So up to this point, we've just kind of taken a list of interested buyers that we plan to reach out to once we actually can market those properties.
And Pete, with respect to transfer to a public entity,
There's still a sale price related to,
well, so
theoretically.
this first bullet here talks about the Oasis Trail, right? In our view of the world, that is the most likely segment of all of this right-of-way to be approved for transfer because there's an existing public project. That project is in the MPO's transportation plan. You have agreements in place. So we're kind of sending that through to see what the FTA has to say about that. If they approve that, then we can maybe have further discussions. But ideally, you just push forward with the sale with the rest of it, and
Yeah.
it could be sold to
A public entity, yeah.
But that's kind of where we stand with respect to public agencies.
Yeah, that one in particular stood out because I recall from the letter that they were prepared to purchase it, and so I just wasn't sure.
Yeah, once we start the official process of disposing, then we'll reach out to them, as Jason said. But at least, basically, we're happy that everything's done, everything is complete, that satisfied FTA, and now we're entering the next phase, which is start the process of disposing of the property. And we'll keep you appraised on that.
Thank you, Khaled and Jason. And I was happy to learn that while we do have to repay the FTA, we do get to keep some funds for our operating costs during this process. Isn't that correct?
So the expenses that we've had to incur to prepare to sell the property, we can deduct from the sale. So the money that the board has approved for us to, the valuation and whatnot, we'll get all of that money back once the property is sold.
Yep, I think that's great. Thank you. No other questions? Okay, thank you. So moving on to our action item. This is always a great conversation. We have a presentation about the 2024 Transit Infrastructure Fund projects, and turn it back over to Jason. Jason, you going to run through this for us?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So we have, to this point, we've gone through the call for proposals. We've reviewed the submissions. Our two consultants that the contracts you guys approved at our last board meeting, AECom and Wolpert, have reviewed those proposals, weighed them against the scoring criteria, and have brought back some recommendation. Correct. Thank you. Next slide, please. So we received 39 proposals from 25 different municipalities. They're represented there below. 8 municipalities submitted more than one proposal. Next slide, please. On the left, you can see the municipalities that submitted more than one proposal. All the projects are captured here in this slide. Total project cost of all the projects, construction effort, was just over $80 million. The funding requests for those projects total just over $55 million. Primarily, most of them are roadway projects and sidewalk projects. There are a couple that came through with like bridges and tunnels. Next slide, please. Thank you. As you can see, the green at the top are the 9 projects that are being recommended for award. So 7 of the municipalities will receive funding. And the weighted scoring criteria on the far right was added to this slide just to show you the representation of how they scored out. Next slide, please. I'm sorry, Natalie, can you jump back one slide? My apologies, I skipped over something. One note here is there's within our guidelines, a single municipality cannot receive more than 50% available funding. So for the Ridge Avenue project, the city of Cincinnati was eligible for about $10 million of project funds. They are already receiving $14.5 million for the Western Hills Viaduct. So the amount of their top 3 projects that scored out was over $10 million. So the $1.5 million funding request is reflected to show the balance that they can receive and not go over to 50% threshold for their project allowance.
Yeah, the original request for Ridge Avenue was 4.5 million. But to Jason's point, they were reaching their cap, so we could only give them 1.5 million. We did reach out to the city, John Brazina, just to ask them whether they want the 1.5 million or if they want to withdraw the project. And they elected to take the 1.5, even though they asked for 4.5 million.
So we were able to cascade the dollars down and fund the bulk of the Sycamore Township North Connectivity Project at $5 million.
So one thing that everybody will notice is that the green doesn't go as far down as it has in the past.
Yeah.
So that's a big difference. Obviously, that is due to the higher cost of the Victory Parkway Safety Improvement Project and the Sycamore Township North Connectivity Project. And I was hoping, Jason, you could talk a little bit about those projects specifically, and given they are a higher dollar amount.
Sure. The Victory Parkway project, the effort there is going to be to right size and rehabilitate the roadway on Victory Parkway around the Eden Park Drive area. They're going to convert that to 2 lanes with center turn lanes where it's necessary. The project will also include a bike lane and shared use path.
Oh, good.
It was brought up in the last committee meeting.
Great.
There's going to be curb extensions, additional raised crosswalks, existing sidewalk and railing features to address safety concerns, and then improved and added street lights throughout the corridor.
Okay.
And Sarah, what was the other project you wanted to know?
Sycamore Township, the North Connectivity Project.
Yeah, that project will be new sidewalks on Deerfield Road, Bowen Road, Kemper Road, and Snyder Road. They're repaving the adjacent pavement on Kemper, Deerfield, and Snyder Roads. New corridor, that corridor will receive new curbs and manage the wastewater better, stormwater better. And then they're going to improve curb ramps at intersections and new improved bus stop as well.
Those are 2 projects that are urban and suburban, indicative of the types of transit supporting infrastructure that we envision. So that's really exciting.
Right.
I know that bike lanes and shared use was a topic before. There is one other project. I don't have it noted, but I know there is one other project that
Central
there is.
Parkway.
Jason, you mentioned I'm sorry.
Oh, it is Central Parkway. Thank you.
You mentioned the elevated sidewalks as part of the Victory Parkway improvements. Did that help with the scoring for that project, the pedestrian safety measures?
Potentially, safety is a factor. There's 12 scoring criteria: physical conditions, safety, priority, economic growth, matching funds, regional impact, relative economic strength, transit impact, multimodal infrastructure, ability to proceed, sustainability, and past performance. So it's the combination of those things. I can't say if safety put that project above others or not. I just have the weighted score from the
I
consultant.
bring it up because the city of Cincinnati has a pretty robust group of employees that works on
Yes.
pedestrian safety measures, where a lot of jurisdictions don't have that. But if they could use some guidance, ongoing guidance from this body about how that could enhance their proposals, that would be really helpful to those of us that represent those districts.
I can certainly get with
Chelsea,
our
me.
consultant.
Second that.
Sometimes we
individual,
feel like
that's
lonely
what it
soldiers
fits.
out there talking about pedestrian safety measures, and we just get defeated. So they don't have staff to work on these things, and a lot of the city administrators don't have a background in pedestrian safety. But if they know that that could enhance their projects, like I see tunnels on this, I guarantee you that a lot of suburban districts are not considering any sort of major change like that compared to the city of Cincinnati. So that it's exciting to think about some of these projects, but it's pretty obvious it's torpedoing a lot of the gray projects at the moment. The heavy green, high dollar numbers are really having an impact on the lack of going forward for these other ones. So it's something we'll have to grapple with. But thanks.
Sorry, Chelsea. To Dan's point, I was debating whether to say Mr. Driehaus or Dan. I did not forget your name, sir. To the gentleman's point, just in so I represent Deer Park. I'm not trying to say Deer Park specifically, but this is an example. We had a discussion last night at our meeting about putting crosswalks in at along Galbraith and along Blue Ash, both of which our buses go. And we had a robust discussion and ended up with, even if we wanted to do it, we can't afford to do it anyway. Along with the flashing lights for kids to get to and from school and on and off buses and cars and things like that. So that's just an example of the type of pedestrian safety discussions that are taking place, where I was completely ill-equipped to have that discussion because I don't have the background in that. And that was kind of the general sense in the room of it would be nice to do that, but we don't have the funds to do it. We don't really have the expertise in the room to figure out the process. So that's just an example of a suburban community that struggles.
The engineer wasn't asked to do it.
And I would, and I
That's
would
what
just
we deal
say
with.
to our, in terms of what we did, when we came out with this round 4 of funding a year or so ago, we discussed how the criteria was going to change. We discussed how the scores were going to change, and there was discussion about what communities needed to do in order to make those changes, even in how they submit their information. And I think that was, those were some elements as well. If you're waiting all the way and we have to go, chase you basically to even give you those funds, that's problematic. So I think that that I'm just aware that there's been some discussion on how to make sure you get those numbers up, and it is up to those locales to make sure that they take heed.
Over the last 4 months has been my introduction to this program and what it means to our communities. So I myself have gone through just a familiarization. Within the last 10 days, I have visited 15 project sites to get some context, because you can read about it, you can see the dollars and cents, but you really don't get to see the impact. And I was really pleasantly surprised that it's more than just pavement on the streets. To the safety that Dan talked about, and Neil, the the pedestrian crosswalk areas. 3 of the 15 projects that I visited were right outside of an adjacent park. And you see the pedestrian crosswalks as well as the ADA accessibility that wasn't there before. And it struck me as this is more than just diverting rainwater off the streets or adding new curbs. This is improving the quality of life in those areas of those projects. And that give me a real big sense of pride that I like to see.
And Neil, just to address your point, just remember that you can ask for up to 90%, right? And many of these localities, they use consultants to do the application for them as well as the design. And we'll be more than happy to talk to you and your colleagues in terms of the process and what needs to be done and so on.
I do think that we are coming up on the end of construction season as we kind of go into the latter part of the summer. We have, of the 95 projects that we've awarded funds to, 20 of them are complete, and we have an additional 10 that are more than 80% complete. And I'm excited to put together just an annual report that you guys will receive later on this year that will really be able to show you the before and after effects of a lot of those projects and what it's doing for our communities.
Thank you. One interesting thing that I learned in our pre-meeting that I wanted to share with the board is that this round we had $19 million available plus the 14.5 for the Western Hills Viaduct. And so that $33 million roughly, of that $33 million, $8 million of that comes from interest that we have earned on this program, these investments. And it's the first time we're using that interest. So I think that was really interesting. And then I wanted to ask Tim, I was looking for it in the report, the investment funds report. Is there a, like,
Yes.
was there an $8 million number? I was looking for it on that report. Or is
I
that
can
where we would see it?
There's an investment of funds report for the MTIF
Okay.
funds, and you will see the interest. There is a line item for interest for the month and year to date.
Okay, good. So I just wanted to make that connection for myself and for everyone
If
else.
you're looking for a number, don't look for 8. It's 7.83 million.
Okay, so, all right. I can look for 7.83 million.
There are some dollars that get put back into the project funds that we didn't necessarily anticipate, and the interest is one of them. As we continue to finish projects, there's going to be a really robust closeout process that we're going to develop, because not the projects are awarded based on the estimates of the project, but sometimes they come in under budget. So those funds end up going back to the program to award to future projects.
And I was also happy to hear that material costs are coming down a little bit. So, yeah, we're seeing some movement there. So,
Correct.
okay. Bree?
Can I ask a question about the, where is it now? I lost it. Forest Park, the bus route sidewalk improvements. So, was that for potential bus route? Do we have buses in Forest Park? I thought that was one of our gap areas we were looking to expand into.
Yeah, we have buses that go,
Yeah, within.
but we have a
Hub?
ride.
Oh, park and ride.
Yeah,
Maybe that's where I'm confused. Okay, so a park and ride.
yeah, and they have to be within 3/4 mile of the bus route.
Right, yeah. So I'm curious as to, I guess, why that scored so lowly. As it would be good to expand service even further there, and maybe with improvements to, accessing those stops, that could be.
We can share the scoring with you on that project.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Last line. Next line.
Next slide, Natalie. Okay, so what you see here, this is our action request. So we're requesting the board to approve us to take this group of recommended projects to the integrating committee. The total award amount for year 4 will be $19,412,888. This is in addition to the $14.5 million that we've already set aside for the Western Hills Viaduct. As you can see, that's a 23X. I believe that is a Forest Park Express route. And I thought that was a really interesting picture. They're not quite done with the sidewalk or the passenger walk on the left, but it's a good representation of some of the pedestrian walkway improvement. Slide, please.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, so would Pete you make a motion to move these award recommendations forward to the integrating committee? Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Chelsea. And all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, so these are our next steps.
Did you say nice?
Integrated committee,
Oh, yeah.
That is a lot of work, yeah.
I thought you meant.
working through contracts, and then making the funds available
Solid
early
eye,
next year.
everybody.
Great.
Any additional questions? Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. Thank you, Haled.
Nice work.
Thank you.
Is there any
Nice
new
work.
order in the court? No. Is there any new business for this committee? Okay. Then
Pete?
we are adjourned.
You brought something up in new business last time?
You will always be new business, Pete.
Maybe
New business, Pete.